And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. My name is Alexi Boyd, your trusted admin expert and bookkeeper, and I'm here with a very special guest today. For those of you who've been listening the last few weeks, we are in the middle of a series, a guest fest, if you will. We have a series of, I call them Small Biz Journeys, and it's all about finding out about our guests, their history, their experience, and what led them to be so successful and where they are today. People who've been listening recently, we had Diane Harris, who is the owner of Secondhand Studio here in Hornsby, who is very passionate about upcycling and rescuing old relics and people's furniture and giving them a new life. She also works very hard with community organisations. And in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to have Hope Kidd, who is the maker of Jamaican products. She has a fascinating story to tell, which I'm hoping everybody will listen into that. But today we've got Jennifer Taylor here from Vividity Photography. Thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And I have been super excited about having you in the show. We've been networking buddies for quite a while now. It's probably been a couple of years, isn't it?
At least 2, probably 3, maybe more.
Yeah. So Jen and I are one of those crazy people who we run our own businesses, and she's going to tell you all about that. But one of the connections we've made, quite a strong connection, is working together in these networking groups, and they can be online through Facebook, through other social media channels, and I think that both of us do that quite successfully. And it's interesting that you get to make a name for yourself without having any real financial or client contact with these people, but you get to be known as the expert in your field. And it's something that I do go on about quite a bit, the importance of networking, not the importance of throwing thousands of dollars at it, but the importance of being consistent and being seen as an expert. And it's another great avenue to showcase yourself. So, Jen, your business, of course, is photography, but I think, when you say photography, there's a lot of photographers out there, and there's a lot of people who niche it really well, and I think you're one of those people who niche it particularly well. And with your experience across lots of different sectors and lots of different fields, I mean, you rang in a few months ago now talking about customer service because you've got all that experience. So I'm really fascinated today about hearing about what led you into starting your business. What was the beginning of it?
It's a very long story. I'm actually not a photographer.
Oh, what?
So I am not...
You're demystifying yourself now.
Yeah, I am. I am not trained as a photographer. I have been creative and artistic all of my life, but that was always, I guess, squashed by school, family as well, because I'm also very bright. So I was that, I know.
You're one of these good at everything people.
Well, no, I'm not good at everything, but I was one of those, I was the kid at school that you hated until you had homework that you needed help with. So, I did well at school. And I think when you perform well academically and you perform well artistically, people tell you that the artistic side of things is a waste.
You don't need it.
That's right. You need to be a lawyer or a doctor or a this or a that. So I went down that path. I've got degrees and qualifications up to my eyeballs, but not one in photography.
How interesting. Yes. But that's okay. It's all part of the growing and the moulding of the education.
It is.
And the life experience they talk about.
That's right. And I think sometimes when you come into a field that you are not trained in, that you have not been brought up through, that you come to it with a different set of eyes. So often you'll find, you go into a doctor's surgery and you find a really great medical receptionist. You probably find that she's actually not been a receptionist for very long. She's done all sorts of other things, or he has done all sorts of other things and brings those skills to what they're doing now. And I think a fresh set of eyes is really useful no matter what business you're in.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And so that was more of a sort of a legal, a corporate background that you came into it? Yes.
No, I'm an academic.
Oh, you're academic?
I am Dr. Jennifer Taylor.
I didn't know you were a doctor.
Yes, I am.
I
hold a real proper PhD, one that I earned.
Oh, wow. Not what the university gave you because you were Obama.
Yeah, that's right. Not one of those ones that all of us who have earned them go, what?
That's not putting in the hard yards.
That's right.
No. So what's the doctorate in?
In early childhood education. I have I have a degree in modern languages and linguistics. I worked for a little while after. I studied at university in Japan.
Oh, wow.
As part of that.
Yes.
I came back and did an honours year. I worked for a while. I got interpreting qualifications.
In Japanese?
In Japanese and English, yes. I worked...
Didn't know you were bilingual, but please continue.
I wouldn't call myself bilingual anymore. It's certainly not equal, and it doesn't come out very easily anymore because I don't use it enough.
Uh-huh.
And I worked for a while, and then I went back to university and I did a PhD in early childhood education working with Japanese English bilingual kids.
Wow.
Now, through that time, I was shooting just whatever I could.
That was just for the fun of it?
For the fun of it. It was a hobby. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I had to give my camera to my husband to lock in his filing cabinet at work.
To stop you.
So that I could finish my
doctorate.
PhD.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. So it's such a different, varied background. Why photography? I mean, you say very creative, and you knew that you needed to tap into that somehow. I mean, there's lots of different avenues. Why?
Yeah, I think because I
specifically
can't
photography?
paint.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved to draw. I used to draw quite well, and art was something that I really enjoyed in primary school. I actually, at the end of primary school, went on a camp, like a sport and rec kind of camp, and I had the choice to go for writing or for art. And I chose to go for art. And I can remember my teacher, he was the principal of the school. I went to a tiny little primary school. We only had like about 60 kids in the whole school.
Was it a country school?
No, it was in Newcastle.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So not big city, but not country.
Yeah, right.
And he went, what? Like, why
Another
go for
person
art?
who's squashing it.
Yeah,
How interesting.
And anyway, I did this painting at the end of that. Unbeknownst to me, it was sent into a competition. And so then I'm in year 7. I get home from school one day and there's been a phone call from my primary school. Can you come in and collect a prize?
What prize?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah. So I went in and there was a prize there for me for a painting that I'd done at this camp. And it was a really abstract piece of work. And I can remember the principal opened up this, so they'd sent the painting back. And he opened it up and looked at it and he went, "You won a prize for that?"
What?
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that
Yeah,
happens.
I see what you mean about squashing. It's quite specific.
It is.
Yes. Wow. That's dreadful.
And photography, I don't know. I think I like the immediacy of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like how, even when we were shooting film, how quickly you can create a piece of work.
And obviously, I must say that you know, networking with you over the last couple of years, you are a very interactive, social, you know, you really make a true connection with the people that you speak to.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's that true connection with photography, and there's that natural progression towards the face-to-face. You know.
Yeah, I'm very definitely a portrait photographer. The idea of landscape photography thrills me. I enjoy looking at landscape photography, but, you know, camping for 3 days, just waiting around for the right light, nah.
Yeah. Yeah, not when you can create it yourself. But I think that's what, for those of you who haven't checked it out before, go to Vividity. Is it vividity.photography.com?
It's just vividity.com.au.
Vividity.com.au. I always struggle saying that.
I know, it's a very...
But that's good.
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
memorable.
It's part of the branding.
That's right.
But do check it out, because I must say, when I first looked at your website, the thing that I really enjoyed was seeing the before and after. And that's a little bit voyeuristic.
Yes.
But I have to admit, fascinating, because I think knowing some of the people that in those photographs, it really, you really do capture the essence of that person. And I know it's not just one image. I know it's not just one. So talk me through how your experience, obviously I'm thinking early childhood, I'm thinking maybe not the academic side of things. Those people I know of mine, who friends are academics, are probably not the person-to-person that you are, but that early childhood connection and making that connection with other people and the linguistics, that must come through. How do you use those skills from previous life in your everyday, you know, photography that you do now?
Yeah, I think there's a little part of the story that is important. After I finished my PhD, I worked in the department for a while.
In the university?
In the university. And then I went off and did yoga teaching qualifications.
I'm just going to keep laughing because I'm going to have to write a list at the end of all this.
That's
Have you
right.
ever sat down and written a list?
No. I haven't.
Because I'm telling you, your LinkedIn page does not look like this list at all.
No.
It's one of those people, when you sit there, you do your LinkedIn page and you go, okay, I have to make things relevant. I'm trying to sell myself as to what I am now. But wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, so I started my journey with yoga at about the same time as I started my PhD. My PhD began as a very quantitative piece of research and
highly academic, obviously.
Yes,
that was your left brain working.
But it didn't stay that way for very long, and it finished up. My dissertation actually, there is a little prologue, and then it opens with a Lunig poem.
Radio.
And it has sketches of yoga poses. So, yeah, if anybody really wants to have a look, it's in the library at Macquarie University. I'm sure you can go and find it.
Wow.
But yoga is one of those things that I think teaches you to be better at whatever it is that you do. So if you are a teacher, then yoga makes you a better teacher. If you are a parent, it makes you a better parent. And I think the reason it does that is because it helps you get in touch with who you are as a human being. And when you do that, you realise that you're really not very different from anybody else. Really, you're not. And I think that ability to when somebody is in my studio, I'm just with them.
Well, Jen, you're with them when you're in their presence. That's one of those magical things, and I think that's probably why those before and after photos are so true to life and true to person, because there is that connection, but also an understanding. And that's interesting that you bring something as far flung as yoga into it, because it grounds you to yourself. But interesting that you've managed to make that ground, make the connection as well.
Yeah. Well, I think so. When my PhD morphed into this more qualitative piece of work, I started looking at grounded theory and all of these kinds of things. We won't go into that. But one of the things that I really thought deeply about was how the personal is really quite universal. So yes, we've all got our own unique stories, but at the heart of it, we are all pretty much the same. And this is why movies work so well. This is why novels work so well. So when you get right into someone else's life, you learn something about your own. So telling somebody's story well is everybody's story, really. So when you watch a movie and you cry, it's because it's touched that part of you that identifies completely with the characters. So I think it's that same thing. If I can get to know you, I'm learning about me at the same time. I'm learning about life. It makes my work life really enjoyable. I can't imagine just having like a sausage factory approach to my work. It would be very quickly become something that I'd done and ticked off, and I wouldn't be interested in it anymore. But
it certainly wouldn't appeal to your creative side.
No, and nor to my humanity. This is my life. I don't want to waste my life doing stuff that is not fulfilling. And I'm really privileged to be able to do what I do, and I get to spend a day with someone in my studio. We have the most fabulous conversations. I get to know about them. And this whole process starts way before they actually come in. So we spend a lot of time talking before they even get to the studio point. And it's fascinating. It's a real joy to meet so many different people. It's great. Love it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Look, when we get back after this break, we're just going to take a short break and listen to some community service announcements. But when we get back, I'm really fascinated for my listeners to hear about your work within community organisations and how you take those skills that you've obviously incorporated from your corporate and work life, and then into your small business life, and then into this ongoing growth of the business, and then how you move it into the community. I'm sure they'd be fascinated to hear about that. You're listening to Small Biz Matters on Triple H 100.1 FM. We'll be back after this short break. Awesome. Okay, so we're back in the studio and we're talking to Jen from Vividity. I'm going to get that wrong every time. Vividity Photography. And just before the break, we were talking about your amazing journey, which wouldn't even fit on a LinkedIn page, where you've taken so many different skills and so much information. And I love the fact that there's a whole stack of academic stuff in there as well that you've brought to the fore. Most of my small biz journeys guests come to me and say, "Oh yeah, I used to be in corporate and now I've started this new journey and it's really fun." And that's where the story ends. But you've just, extracted all this education side of things, and then you've got the knowledge base of academic, and you've got a doctorate. It's all awesome. It's very fascinating. But talk me through where you take those skills now. So you've moved from that academic life into your small business, and you've taken all those skills with you. Now you're using that to engage with the community more and give something back. Take me through a couple of those organisations that you work with.
Okay, so there are the general business networking organisations, and in those places, I'm there to be a sounding board to other businesses, to support them through my photography work if they choose to engage me for that, but also to point them in the direction of other photographers if I'm not the right fit for them. I have absolutely no qualms in doing that. So there are those places, and I've also in the last couple of years started looking around at other community organisations to support. I have two that I work with quite closely. So one is Frocktober. If any of you have been following my work for a while, you will have seen a couple of years worth of really tragic photos of me in some fairly tragic dresses. I'm a jeans kind of girl. So Frocktober is a thing that I started doing a few years back, where you wear a dress every day.
Oh, what?
I know.
Oh, no, I
October.
can't. No, leggings is as far as close I get to a dress.
Yeah, well, I went, yeah, that's pretty cool. So it supports, it's a fundraising initiative that raises funds for ovarian cancer research, which is kind of one of those underdog cancers. It's not visible. It's not really sexy. It gets the least amount of funding.
It's not pink.
That's right. It's not pink. It's not pink. So I started doing that, signed up. Yeah, fantastic. And then I realised I only had 3 dresses. Worked really well for me.
For 3 days?
Well, business-wise, it worked really well because I suddenly went, oh, I'm going to need some help. So I went out to my network and I went, ladies, I think I'm in trouble.
I need you to shop for me.
Well, I need to borrow your dresses. It's not actually about shopping for October. It's about borrowing, recycling, swapping.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily about going and buying yourself a new dress. Well, mind you, I did do that.
It sounded like you needed to.
But it's about borrowing. So I had women sending me dresses to wear, and then my kids would take an iPhone pic of me. They're really not great photographers, by the way, and they hated doing it.
They got your academic side of the brain?
Well, I don't know. Don't know yet.
They're just not there yet. It's obviously a maturity that hasn't grown for the photography side.
Yeah, so that's one that I support.
How do you raise money for that? Is it just
It's
for every
sponsored.
dress that every dress that you put on and take a photo of, you get paid?
Well, no, it's a sponsorship thing. It's a bit like your walking thing at school where you get sponsored.
Oh, okay. So if I managed to get through a month of wearing dresses, which people who know you know you would struggle with that. It's like me giving up food. No.
Yeah, so people donate through an online portal usually. So there's that one. The other charity that I do a lot of work with is Dress for Success. Now, they're a Marrickville-based organisation. They're actually global. We have one in Marrickville. They do amazing work with women who, for one reason or another, have found themselves in very difficult situations and they just need a bit of help getting themselves back on their feet. This organisation provides workwear as well as CV writing workshops, interview practice, all those kinds of things that you need to get ready to go for a job interview. It's just kind of a way of levelling the playing field a little bit. I think they're an amazing organisation. I think the work they do is fabulous. So I go and shoot for them a couple of times a year. So it's part of my pro bono work. I rock up, I shoot these women in like the loading dock.
As they're coming in?
Well, they're there. It's usually on a day when they have workshops where they do makeup for interview. So it's a day when the women have come in and they've done their makeup beforehand themselves. They've learnt how to do a decent face of makeup, and I'm there on hand, and I photograph as many of them as will come and sit for me. And then I provide them with some prints of those photos, but also the digital file, and they can then use that for their CVs, their LinkedIn, all of that kind of stuff.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's such an important organisation, isn't it? You know, one thing to get people off the street, but to get them job ready.
That's
very
right.
Important.
That's right. Yeah, it really is about. It's not charity in the sense of we're just giving stuff. It's actually education and a helping hand, and getting people back on their feet so that they can then go off and look after themselves. And the thing is, most of the, I don't know whether they all do, but a lot of these women have got children. So you help that woman and you are actually helping her family.
Absolutely, and creating a role model for them as well, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful that you've taken those skills that you've learned from this whole, life education, if you will, or life experience, and then really giving something back. There's something in there for all of us. So take me through some of talking about your business now. Obviously, how long have you been doing Vividity Photography?
I registered my business name probably. Might be 17 years ago.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
Wow.
So,
but as you said, you didn't just draw a line in the sand and walk into it. It was something that gradually. Those of you who are listening before the break, Jen was telling us how she had to give her camera at one stage to her husband to lock up to stop her from procrastinating to get her doctorate finished. Wish I could say that I had to procrastinate not to get my doctorate finished, but no. So that's really wonderful. And then once you had the freedom, obviously, once you'd got the academic finished. Then was it more of a gradual, how did you get your first clients, for example?
It was really gradual. I started shooting mostly child and family work.
Because you'd had that experience with children.
Yeah, that's right. And, a PhD in early childhood, I convinced myself that children's photography was the right fit, of course, because, I still hadn't quite allowed myself the freedom to be who I really wanted to be. So I started doing child and family work, which was great because most of the shoots were on the weekend. We were having our own family, so that worked really well for me at the time. I started incredibly gradually, and I did no marketing work. It was word of mouth only. If people came to me and we could make a shoot work, fantastic. If not, fantastic. And it just went along that way for a long, long time. I wanted to enjoy my children while they were at home and little.
Yes. And it is a really good career to have at that stage, isn't it?
It was great. It worked really well.
Do you have amazing photos of your children when they were young?
I do have amazing
photos
of my children when they were young.
My husband does video production. I have 2 videos of my children, and then 9 and 10. But we won't go into that. That's awesome. You loved and you were passionate enough about your work that you could also use your family as guinea pigs. That's wonderful.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Right. One piece of advice I would give to people starting out in a photography business, though, is don't build your website until you have client work, because a website purely of your own children reeks of these are my own children and I don't have any clients. So don't do that.
Did you do that?
I did not do that.
But you saw others and you thought, I won't do that. And even if that means, I guess, when you're starting out doing a little pro bono work just to get that variety of clients, if you will, so it doesn't look like you've only got 5 of them, for example. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And so then where did the progression into corporate headshots and that sort of development, when did that happen?
Yeah, that didn't really happen until my youngest started school. And then I had weekdays back.
Okay.
And I went, right, now it's my turn. This is where I'm going to go. And it kind of happened quite by accident. So I had somebody who approached me needing some corporate portraits. I thought, probably should get a makeup artist in, sort all that kind of stuff out. Had the makeup artist booked, photo shoot fell through. I went, okay. I put a call out to some friends and I said, this is the kind of work that I want to produce. Will you come and play? So I will cover the cost of everything and I will give you some photos at the end. So my first 2 or 3 women's shoots were like that.
Where did you find those women? Were they literally friends?
The very first one I did was a friend of a friend who I had never met before.
Wow.
And I still use her image in my marketing material.
And yet, but that is, again, that's that personal connection that you do so well I can't imagine that would have been a struggle for you once you got into it. I guess it was nerve-wracking the first time?
It was nerve-wracking the first couple of times. It really was. And I felt like I struggled and that I didn't really know what I was doing. But I think one of the things that having an academic background has helped me with is that I'm really good at learning stuff and internalising that and then making it my own, which is what you have to do when you're writing, for example. If you're doing academic research, you have to read and find out about stuff, and then you have to make your own interpretation of that and produce your own work. So I had done a lot of reading, a lot of looking at other photography work. I thought, this is where I want to go. And then I put all of that away. Mm-hmm. And when the client, this very first one that I did, was in the studio with me, it was just us doing our own thing.
But you would have absorbed all that information
that's right.
and learned.
That's right.
That academic side coming in.
Yeah, that's right. But I know a lot of photographers who are trying to move into a different kind of photography, and they'll have like posing guides and things out that they keep referring to all the time in the middle of a shoot. And I'm like, no, I can't do that.
It's not very natural.
And this woman is here. She's trusting me to make some gorgeous photos of her. And part of making those images is that I need to be able to connect with her. I have to be present in this moment with her and actually engage with her. And that is how you get, before you said that I capture the essence of people, which is a really big compliment. It's one of the nicest things you can say to a photographer, so thank you. But I think it's because I think you need to actually be present. Yes. In order for that to happen.
Yeah, you can't be, looking at your script or looking at the things that you want to, the tick boxes that you want to achieve and keeping it list-based. So did you ever go back to those original clients and talk to them about, like, years later and say, how did you find it went? Just to find out what your growth has been?
I did. We actually got a few of them back in. We haven't produced the video yet, but we got a few of them back in and did some interviews.
Oh, awesome.
So stay tuned. We might get some of that out.
Put together. That would be fascinating. Particularly because, like you said, it's 17 years since you've actually set it up and it's such a gradual process, and you started with one area of photography and moved into a next. That transition and that journey is so fascinating to people. And another reason why we're doing it on Small Biz Matters today is because you can learn so much from other businesses. And I guess because you're dealing with not corporate clients, but people, I shouldn't say corporate clients, but because you're doing headshots and you're learning about those people, you really make that connection by learning about their history and their journey, even in that one day. I find it fascinating as well that it's a whole day.
Yeah, it's a short day. So we start...
but still, it's not 2 hours.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, it takes you an hour and a half to get your hair and makeup done.
Far out.
I know. It's full service. And it's lovely. So during that hour and a half, I have a makeup artist in who is making these women look gorgeous but also feel really great.
Are you talking to the people at that point? You're just sort of setting up in the background and having a chat and I guess that connection, that's when that's made and you're really getting to know people.
That's right. There's a lot of chit-chat going on there. So it's chatting about business, it's chatting about schools and children and sport and, it's just... the kind of chit chat that you have when you catch up with a friend for a coffee.
That's right.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, and you love doing it too, and I'm sure they do. Bit of relaxing. Really I'm getting work done. I'm having my headshots done, but I'm also enjoying myself, and I'm very relaxed.
Yeah.
We're just going to take a quick break here on Small Biz Matters. We'll be back after these community service announcements. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM, and welcome back to Triple H 100.1 FM. You are with Small Biz Matters every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m, and we are in the studio with myself, Alexi Boyd, resident admin expert, and Jen from Vividity Photography. Jen is sharing with us her small biz journey, which I think we can all learn from in terms of where people get their experience from and their successes. Speaking of successes, this is a tough one. What would you say is your biggest success? What are you most proud of with the business?
Oh, most proud of, it's a better way to put it. My favourite thing of all time to shoot is mother and daughter. And if I can have a teenage girl and her mum in the studio, there is a moment in every single one of those shoots where teenage girl sees mum and goes, I never knew. So this is mum who's had her makeup professionally done. You know, us mums, we don't get to look after ourselves very well a lot of the time. And our kids see us at our worst often. And when this teenage daughter, sees her mum and goes, wow.
Is there a reveal? Is it like one of those, Star Trek doors?
No, she's there for the whole thing. But, there is always, in every single mother and daughter shoot that I've done, there's a moment where the daughter realises that her mum has something more than she knew about. That I love that. That moment is brilliant. And then I get to make these images that one day she is going to count amongst her most precious possessions, that daughter. Because one day her mum's not going to be around anymore and she's going to have some photos of her mum on her own and of her and her mum together that she will cherish.
At that age where we're all so separate from our mothers at that age, aren't we?
We are. I'm just coming into it now.
Yeah, we think they think they're awesome and that they don't need us. And that's and you almost bring that moment back where they do need that person actually.
Yeah.
That's magical. That really is.
I really thoroughly enjoy that moment.
And is it fun when you get people who have got their headshots done because one of the reasons why I think you connect so well with the business community is because the work that you do for people's the headshots are really important for small business. If you think about your LinkedIn, your professional, everyone's getting professional Facebook pages now, not just your personal ones, but your professional ones. Plus you've got your business side. So if you're a consultant and the face of your business is not a logo, but it's actually you. Business cards, a lot of people are putting their photos on business cards. You can't just stand in front of a white wall and get a passport photo anymore. That looks so crappy. And is there a moment where you start to see those people who use your photography in their professional, and that must be very satisfying.
Look, it's a real thrill. And I look at the groups that I'm in on Facebook, for example, and, people make comments and I say, oh, I took that photo. Oh, that one's one of mine. Oh,
she's changed her profile photo to one of mine.
I'm glad to see she's using that so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he. I do shoot men as well. So, yeah.
And it's not just, like I said, it's not just the passport, white background. I mean, when I took my husband took my my headshot, which, I have been saying for many moons, I need to come and see you.
It's actually a very good shot that you have.
Oh, I will tell him that.
Yes. He should be proud of it.
My mother looked at it and said, you look like you're part of the Liberal Party, but it is a bit white shirt brigade, isn't it? But I think that it's more lifelike than that. And it's important when you're looking at advertising yourself and positioning yourself in those groups, that if you are going to make the switch, which a lot of people are doing at the moment, creating professional personal profiles so that, you don't look like you're constantly talking about your children to business associates.
Yes, good point.
Or whinging about your children, as my case may be. Those moments are quite important that when you're rebranding yourself.
Yeah, and look, corporate portraits don't have to be boring or stodgy. They really don't. There is no excuse for that anymore. We've moved on from that. So let your personality show, and your photographer should spend some time getting to know what message it is you want your business to convey.
Yes, which is why I was so surprised when we were talking about your background that it's not in advertising and marketing. Because, like you said, I'm sure they do, or I'm sure all the good photographers do sit down and get a proper brief about what the person wants to achieve with getting these done, so that when you sit down and get the shots done, you only have to do it once. Because perhaps you're trying to go for a fun look and then you want another one that's a serious look and then you want one for the LinkedIn page, and you'd get a range, wouldn't you, in one sitting?
Yes,
like you said,
right.
An hour and a half to do your hair and makeup. I don't even think I spent an hour and a half on my wedding doing my hair and makeup. I mean, you want to make sure you get it right and you've got the full range.
That's right. So I always encourage people to bring in several outfits. I talk with them about what they should bring in first so that they're prepared and they're not nervous on the day.
That's right.
We know where we're going.
And a good photographer will do that.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. They should be.
Yeah. And biggest regret? How would you like people to listen from this particular podcast? What do you want people to take away from it and learn the most from?
Look, I think the main thing is just have a go. Like, don't get so hung up about everything having to be perfect. Just do it and you learn along the way. So, you have to do some training first and you have to get good enough to be running your business in whatever field it is. But then just kind of step out of your own way a little bit It's just, you're not the be-all and end-all. No matter what you do, you are not the king of that.
Yes.
So don't take yourself quite so seriously. And on that note, other people who do the same work as you, they are not your enemy. They are your colleagues. So build relationships within your field. So networking is all about marketing and yourself to other businesses, but also to people who do the same work as you. So I photograph a lot of photographers. Okay. So and I need people to photograph me.
That's true. You can't do it yourself.
Well, yes, I do have some selfies and they're not too bad, but it's never as good as being photographed by someone else who knows what they're doing.
That's right.
But no matter what field you're in, you need people that you can refer work to. So if you've got more work than you can get through, or you have someone who comes to you and you're not the right fit, the best service you can be to that client is to help them find someone who is the right fit. So you need a network of colleagues. Plus, you need support, because if you're running a business on your own, it can be really isolating and lonely. So you have to get out from behind your computer. You have to meet with real people face to face. No matter what it is that you do, you actually need human interaction. And that's how you grow your business, but also how you look after yourself and your own health. It's really important, really important. Just, get out of your own way. Stop seeing other people who do the same thing as you as your competition, and see them as colleagues, and build relationships, people.
Well, that's some really good lessons from someone who's not only been in your own industry for 17 years, but also growth from a lot of different other backgrounds, and, your education and your academic side. I think that's absolutely fascinating, the development and the journey that you've gone through to get to where you are today. Look, thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us in the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have learned so much about you. It's quite amazing. I don't like to sit there and look at the LinkedIn pages before people come on, because I think it's just interesting to find out organically what it is that people bring to the fore. So thank you so much. For those of you who have missed part of the show, you can catch up, of course, on smallbizmatters.com.au. The podcasts and all of the scripts are available to read. If you have any questions, or you would like to share your small biz journey with our listeners, why don't you jump on our Facebook page, Small Biz Matters Australia, and get in touch. You can also contact Triple H via the office number, which is on the website for Triple H. Thanks again for joining us in the studio today, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back with Small Biz Matters next week, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. You're listening to Triple H 100.1 FM.